Alrighty, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming to my podcast. Today we are at Tales from the Cryptid. I'm your host, Shad, and we are joined by my guest. If you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Justine Koester. I'm a junior here at St. Angelo.
Yes, and she's actually been on one of these podcasts before. My other show, Ram Relations, and if you want to know more about Justine, you can go ahead and check out that podcast. I heard it went pretty well. But today we are here for Tales of the Cryptid, as I mentioned, the only show at Ram Radio where we get to talk about all the creepies, crawlies, and things that go bump in the night. Now, before we start, I have a question for you. Do you know what a cryptid is?
From the brief conversation we had before this, yes, you said like animals or, creatures of those type. I would even go far to say like spiritual beings that exist in our world that are, meant to cause harm and things like that. So,
well, maybe not necessarily cause harm because some of them aren't hostile, but you are kind of on the right track. Cryptids are, for the lack of a better term, animals, plants, or other sorts of creatures that are claimed to have existed. Maybe there's folklore, maybe there's stories, first-hand accounts of these creatures, but they don't have any scientific backing up data for them. There's no data backing up their existence. Mm-hmm. Some creatures that we have that exist nowadays are actually former cryptids, like the platypus. Because who would have thought that a platypus existed, right?
No,
that's such a bizarre animal, right?
Yeah.
Nobody had believed it until science proved that they existed. And that's kind of what some of these cryptozoologists, as they're called, when they discuss these creatures, they're like, do these things exist? Do they actually not? What's like the logistics here? What would actually cause these things to exist?
And it can... Sorry, I'm so sorry. Cryptologists, cryptozoologists, I guess they exist? Those are an actual job?
I wouldn't say it's an actual, I wouldn't say it's like an official job, but it's definitely something that people can study. They can make their kind of like a career out of it.
Okay.
You can see some of them on like those random TV shows, like the people that are ghost hunters, people that talk to people who've seen Bigfoot, like all those Bigfoot shows. That's kind of like where those you can say that they're kind of cryptozoologists.
Okay.
But yeah.
That's good to know.
So cryptids, they can be a lot of different things. You have like werewolves, vampires, leprechauns, and there's even some plant cryptids. Mm-hmm. There's one that's like, like the rumors a long time ago, like the trees that would like bleed red, but it's actually just like a type of tree that had like a very dark sap.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Okay.
That could technically be considered a cryptid in some folklore. Okay. But today, the cryptid we're going to be talking about is the skinwalker, or as it is in Navajo language, Ye Naldlushi, which stands for, I believe it stands for, if he wears it, he walks on all fours, or something along those lines.
Oh, yeah.
Which is kind of like a direct, like, on-the-nail description of him in some ways. Uh-huh. But, yeah. Before we get into talking about the folklore and maybe some stories about the skinwalker, I want to know what you know about skinwalkers.
That's a great question. From the 5-minute search I did before I walked in here.
You're very honest. We appreciate it here.
Listen, I was prepared to look up anything. Basically, what I got from it was an animal or a thing that could shapeshift into an animal, essentially. I've heard of possible interactions. My friends, they've possibly interacted with them. I've heard some ghost stories. I've seen a couple of animations, those like scary animations on TikTok. The ones where they're just like being really creepy. So I
listened to the YouTube videos that are like, it was late at night. Me and my friends were out and camping.
It's like the 5-minute stories on Snapchat. Yeah, those exactly. I know the parameter, but I don't know enough about them to really have a good grasp. So
yeah, no, that's understandable. Not many people are active enthusiasts on like different cryptids and stuff. Yeah. Some people, even if they're not like really into cryptozoology, will start talking a lot about ghosts or ghost stories and stuff like that, because that's just one of the most popular ones out there. Yeah. But for skinwalkers, I'll be referring to them as skinwalkers for my own sanity, because I know if I keep trying to pronounce that, the Navajo translation, it is just not going to work out.
They're going to pull up and be like, absolutely not. Stop this right now.
I'm actually going to get canceled for mispronouncing the name.
Literally.
But yeah, so skinwalkers are from Navajo origin, and the kind of folklore backstory behind it is that they all were originally medicine men, which are kind of like the witch, like magic men practitioners of the Navajo culture. They would use spells, or like they'd use their medicine and their like mystical knowledge of the spiritual side of the world to kind of help battle against illness, help do all these miracle or like acts of like pretty much miracle workers for the tribes. But what separates these like the magical men, the medicine men, from the skinwalkers is that the medicine men slowly but surely stop using their mystical knowledge for good and start to do more illegal, more taboo things from their culture. And it's said that the only way you can get inducted as a skinwalker is if another skinwalker like helps you, essentially. And they would start doing all these taboo acts like murder, cannibalism, you know, all the fun little things that would make Ted Bundy blush or Jeffrey Dahmer, right?
Just another Sunday for them. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. But they would also have a lot of evil reversed practices that they would do. So, for example, I believe it's called sand painting or something like that. It's like some type of like spiritual practice that they do. They also have rituals and other things that the medicine men and people of the Navajo culture would do. The skinwalkers and the evil, like they would also be referred to as like witches or something like that.
Yeah.
They would kind of like not demean them, but they would kind of make fun or like mock the rituals by using them incorrectly or doing them at the wrong time, or like saying the ritual chants in reverse. So like pretty much they'd be like besmirching the name and like culture and religion essentially of the Navajo culture. And it's also said the last thing that you would need to do in order to become a skinwalker is do like the highest taboo of murder, which is like killing a close family member, most commonly a sibling. So already off the top of the bat, these guys are not nice people. These aren't the people you'd want to bring to your mom. These aren't the people you'd show to your mom. Be like, yeah, he's a skinwalker.
That's insane.
Yeah, funny little analogy, but essentially, what skinwalkers can do from their mystical understanding of their arts is by wearing the skin or like article of dead animals, they can shapeshift into these animals. Most commonly, it would be like foxes, coyotes, owls, hawks, like all these animals that you would find around their area. And they actually weren't that very hostile physically. Of course, they did attack people sometimes, and they would be aggressive. But more often than not, what they would do with these forms is they would use it to better hide at night. Because you'd be more on guard if a person from your tribe that you know was sneaking around at night, whereas you see a fox like just run through the tribe for a second, right?
Okay.
It would be a way. It would be kind of a way to disguise and like blend in, and sometimes evade capture or suspicion.
So, you'll probably get to this. Because they, I want to say hibernate in the animal's skin. What's the purpose of it? Because I know that there's the induction of becoming a skinwalker, but I guess my next question is, what's the purpose of doing it? What are they trying to attempt? And then how do they fit into an animal's skin?
So it's not that they necessarily fit into an animal's skin. It would be more something like, let's say they kill a bear, right? Which if they do that, props to them, right? That's a big feat for a person to do.
Absolutely.
But what they would do is they would like take off like the fur, like the pelt of the animal, and they would wear it. And that would like, they'd wear pelts and like fur, and sometimes it would have like feathers or something like that from like all these different animals, and it'd let them transform into them. Does that kind of make sense?
Yes, that makes sense. Okay, I thought they were actually wearing their skin. I was like, how the heck? I don't get that.
Somehow they're wearing like the skin of a rabbit.
I know. I was like, I don't get it.
No. Like, when I say skin, I meant more like the pelt. Like
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. And you asked like what the purpose of all of it was.
Yeah.
So essentially, these people wanted to have more power. They wanted to try to, and I think there are some beliefs that skinwalkers age slower or they don't age at all.
Mm-hmm.
So it comes into a question of like, did they do this to gain more power, gain more out of life, or like just have more that they want? Because a lot of people are inherently greedy. They will want more for themselves.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like, what is the purpose behind what's their intent? Why did they do this, right? But to go back to what I was saying, they would use these powers, and while they wouldn't necessarily attack people all the time, they would more use it to cast curses on people without them knowing. Yeah. Or some of their more darker practices would be using like human remains as like the conduit and like ingredients for bad medicine is what they would call it.
Yeah.
Which would just get people sick. It could kill them. It could injure them, hinder them, curse them. All these different terms that pretty much mean that these guys are up to no good. And there's actually a lot of stories and tales that are told to children, whether they're true or false or not.
Right.
But these stories are told to kind of make them wary of not only skinwalkers, but also to teach them lessons.
Yeah.
And before we get into stories, do you have any questions about, like, anything else about skinwalkers?
I think, so I wanted to go back to the origins just a little bit real quick, because you had mentioned that they would do a lot of practices, you know, skinwalkers especially, they would do a lot of these practices that would make fun of Navajo culture. Are these still Navajo medicine men, or is it...
So you're asking of, like, if these skinwalkers are medicine men?
Yeah, because you said that they had eventually done these, like, began to do these really bad, like, taboo things, and then you had mentioned that they, you know, people started making fun of Navajo culture through those taboo things. Are those still those medicine men, or, like...
Well, when I said made fun of and, like, besmirch, it's like, maybe that's not, like, the correct term.
Oh, okay,
it's more like they were... I don't know if I can say that word. Pretty much they were like, let's say if it was like a good act or like something that was like seen as like a positive thing in their tribe. They would do these rituals in certain ways that like completely insults what the ritual was fused for, or like what they were doing with those practices.
Okay.
So like, for example, if they had a ritual that they were going through that was for like good luck or something like that, they would use those rituals and they would say it in reverse, or they would like do something incorrectly about the ritual, just as like some type of practices that they would do. Yeah. And who knows what all those purposes are for.
Right.
But does that kind of answer your question?
Yes, that answers my question, because I got slightly confused, but we had moved forward and I was like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, sorry. If you have any questions at all, feel free to speak up. You are here to have fun and be a good guest, you know?
Yeah. Well, no, and absolutely, I think this is what I've been told so far is very interesting. And I think what's interesting from my 5-minute research, there was this slight description about how they were witches, so it can kind of go back to that medicine men type thing from Navajo culture. So I did remember that from a very small amount of time of research.
Yeah.
So that's but you've answered all my questions so far. So.
Of course. So we're going to be moving on to our next section, which is kind of like me bringing up 2 stories that have been told through Navajo culture, or has been recorded from Navajo tribes, or for the last one, it's actually a secondhand account of somebody who's not Navajo, who's not like anything like that, who believes that they've encountered a skinwalker.
Ooh,
so
I'm seated. All right.
All right, strap in, get ready.
Strap in, everybody.
It's gonna be a fun little ride. But yeah, so the first story is about a man. It's told in a book by a man named Will Evan, I believe is his name, and this was when he was studying the Navajo tribe, learning about their culture, their stories, their religion, and all of their beliefs, right? And that's what he mostly focused on in his stories, or like in his recordings. And one of the things they would obviously eventually talk about are the skinwalkers. Right. And there was a story about this man who used to live in their tribe. His name, as what he could translate it to, was Many Goats' Uncle, which is a very interesting name, but...
that's very interesting.
But Many Goats' Uncle is essentially was a part of the tribe, and they believed him to be a skinwalker. So they would leave him purposefully outside of the rituals that they would do. They would kind of like tell their kids to stay away from this person if they were around him. And if anything bad happened around the tribe, they would blame him. because
so he was a scapegoat. Sorry, I'm sorry.
He was kind of a scapegoat,
yeah.
But they all believed him to be a skinwalker for whatever reason. I can't remember if it was actually stated in the book. Probably was, but they had their reasons to believe that he was a skinwalker. Maybe it was some sort of practice or some type of like suspicion around him. Maybe there's an accident and he was nearby and they linked him to it. But essentially, there was stories of him just being very weird and suspicious around the tribe. Sometimes at night they would hear a coyote howling nearby, like close to their camp, and there's actually a story of baby went missing in the tribe.
Oh wow!
In the middle of the night, and they didn't have any evidence of like anybody sneaking in or anything like that, so they blamed Many Goat's uncle. They're like, must have been the skinwalker. And anytime they'd hear a coyote howl or like something in the night, like make a noise, to be like, oh, that's him. Wonder whose kid he's going after this time, right?
Wow, yeah.
And like I said earlier, the reason why he would go after like children or people or something like that would be because he's using their, like I said, sometimes they would use the bones or like the, like, essentially the body parts of a person.
Oh wow.
To concoct these bad medicines or these curses, and they would use that to cause havoc and chaos in their tribe.
So it wasn't just like, I mean, I know that it wasn't just dead people's bones. It was alive. He would kill babies and then make them, and then take the bones from them. You know what I mean?
No, I get what you're trying to say. You're like, what, like, the process of him doing that.
Yeah.
And while it would mostly be like people, I do believe that some of them would require like some animal parts or something like that. But a lot of the more like malpractice, more cruel acts and curses would need like human sacrifices or human requirements.
Okay, so he wasn't just taking people's babies.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past the guy. Skinwalkers are kind of evil.
Yeah.
But anyways, there was a story about how he died and why he was no longer in the tribe when Will Evan came around. The story says that he was traveling on horseback to some type of trade post or something along those lines. And the Navajo tribe says that when he was riding, a black storm cloud like kind of like started forming around like the area he was in, and a thunderbolt or like a lightning bolt actually like struck him off of the horse. Killed him like on impact, right?
That's insane.
And then it started raining heavily, and it like washed him away into like not like a nearby river, but like a nearby like wetland area.
Yo.
And he kind of like got buried in dirt, trash, and like mud.
Oh wow.
So the tribe believed that was like the storm gods like making basically divine intervention and stopping the evil like skinwalker. Right?
Oh yeah.
Overall, there wasn't like too much like major evidence that was recorded because once again he wasn't there by the time that was happening, but they do have like at least one missing child, like missing baby incident within the tribe that they claim was him. So there is some evidence from them that they believe, right? So that was my quick little take on that story. What did you think about it?
I think so.
What's your thoughts on Many Goat's uncle as a person?
I made a joke where it was like, so he was a scapegoat because his name is Many Goat's uncle, and it kind of flew over, and I was like, it was a really good joke. It was a really
that was a really good pun.
Thank you.
Unintentional, but
no, you're good. I think it's. I got really confused because I was like, he's using babies' bones. It was like, we missed a chapter. Over my head. I think it's really interesting to see kind of what folklore can do to communities. I know this is the Navajo community, so it's different and it's more sacred. So I can understand how it impacts people more. I just think it's interesting because, I mean, there's always going to be that one weird person. We're always going to have just that one, like, side-eye, like, okay, we know you're chilling. But also we always have those. So I think it's interesting, but I also think I rarely believe in coincidences. So I think it's very interesting that how he died was so, in a way, like eerily perfect because
it's like very weird circumstances had to happen for that to like occur.
Exactly. So I think, I guess I do believe that before anybody gets up in arms. I do believe that skinwalkers can exist. I think it's just very rare in circumstances. I mean, obviously, I can understand why people were like, I don't know if this, I don't trust this guy that much. But I think it was more of he was just a really weird dude, and he just had the worst karma in the world, and then he just possibly just died. So that's what I think of it. I think it is very interesting to see how deeply embedded Navajo folklore is in community. So
and I do think we have a little bit more time for the second story, and then maybe a little conclusion area. Yes. But the second story to go into it is actually it was a military enlisted military. I don't know what his rank was. I don't think I mentioned it, but somebody was in the Army, right?
Okay, I was like, which one? Because it really depends.
He was stationed in Arizona. I think it was at, they believed it was Camp Navajo.
Well.
And pretty much, sorry, I'm being told the time, but essentially there is a military member of the Army at Camp Navajo in Arizona. He was patrolling around the fence area because I think they were a big weapons military. They were mostly holding a lot of munitions and stuff like that. So they would do a lot of patrols to make sure people weren't coming in. And him and his friend were walking around, checking around. This was 1985.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Around that area where not much way they could actually record this. But essentially, he was walking around with his friend. They were looking around, and they shined the flashlight, and all of a sudden, inside their part of the fence, there was an old man in buckskin pelt clothing, stuff like that. He was very clearly a Navajo.
Oh yeah.
And from there, they start questioning him. They point their guns at him, and it's whoa, man, put your hands up. And he's not responding, not talking, anything like that. He's just staring and watching them about a good 30 feet away. And they try to radio it in to whoever was their people on the radios.
Yeah.
Complete static. They couldn't there wasn't any information from either of them.
Absolutely.
So him and his friend turn away from him to try to figure out with this how to fix the radio.
Yeah.
And they in the story it claims it was half a second or a second like that, right? And in that time, the man disappears. They point their flashlights back at it. The man is gone. All they see is an abnormally large rabbit in where the old man was staring at them.
Oh, actually,
and so they don't know what to do. They're where did the guy go? They start trying to work with the radio again, and the rabbit runs across the fence.
Yeah.
And they don't follow it, but then they try to fix the radio a third time, and they hear movement from outside the fence. They point their flashlights, and the old man is there.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Completely moved. They didn't find him. The fence that they were guarding was at least 10 feet tall.
Yeah.
You know how military fences are. They're pretty tall, barbed wire at the top so people can't climb over.
Yeah.
And even if somebody would climb over, not an old man, right?
No.
Don't have the physical capabilities to do
with
that.
his brittle bones, absolutely not.
So,
yeah.
Long story short, when they saw the old man on the other side of the fence, they booked it out of there.
Yeah.
And the story the way that they got this story out and into the internet, into public and stuff like that, was the army man told this to his family at a Thanksgiving dinner when he kind of had a little bit too much alcohol, and he started telling them. And this was 30 years ago, so in 20 or that was 30 years ago from when the story was told, and I think it was his niece that said that, or that was telling the story. But 30 minutes after, or 30 years after, they kind of realized that he still was shaken up about this. So he genuinely believed that he encountered a skinwalker.
Yeah. I don't know how much time we have left, but that is the instances where I'm that's absolutely a skinwalker. Those are those rare times where something supernatural happened and you can't explain it. So, yeah, no, he absolutely encountered a skinwalker. That is insane. And also, I love horror movies. I love horror in general. The number one thing, don't turn your back. Walk away. Just don't do
Keep
that.
Keep your eyes on whatever you're trying to avoid.
Exactly. I can't even imagine how unsettling that was just to have an old man just stare you down wearing nothing but pelt clothes. Yeah.
Yeah. and then you turn away, and then there's a rabbit, and then you like turn away again, and he's back there again.
That is insane. There's no way, especially in an army base. That's insane. Yeah.
Yeah, but anyways, I think that's all the time we have. For all those fans out there, if you believe that the Skinwalker is real or not, let us know in the comments. If you have anything you want us to talk about as the next topic, let us know. If you want to come on the show, let us know, and hopefully we will have a wonderful show next time. Thank you guys for watching Tales from the Cryptid. My name is Shad.
And I'm Justine.
And we will see you guys next time. Take care.